something?
Here she comes.
Oh, okay.
Got one member that is coming in. I would like to call this.
A little closer.
Okay. I'd like to call this meeting to order at, I guess it's 10:02 a.m. And I would like to ask Ruth Ann Gilbert to lead us in the pledges. Would everyone please stand?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you, Ruth. Okay. Secretary, can you do a roll call, please?
Pat Raleigh,
Here.
Karen Poe,
Here.
Cody Abney,
Here.
Ruth Ann Gilbert,
Here.
and Jenny Little.
Here.
Okay, it appears that we have all members in attendance have a quorum. Now I would like to go to the public comments. And the first person we have is Sherry Lynn Lamoureux. Okay, I couldn't read the last part of it there. Thank you. Go ahead.
Thank you all for your time. I'll be as brief as I can. My husband and I attended one of our first meetings, which was over at the clubhouse, and got some very informed and very good ideas, and we really appreciated being invited to that and being able to go. A few of the things that we heard and had comments on were we've got the apparently money's been appropriated to Parks and Rec for projects, which is excellent. The projects that were mentioned were playscapes in the park on Augusta, and then a senior outdoor gym at the starting of Ranch Road 12. And our concerns on that were the ongoing cost forever on those for the maintenance and the equipment replacement and the insurance for that or any other project that would be concerned that would be placed on the residents. We've also noticed in our area, people have moved in and out of the area with kids because we've seen a lot of playscapes and trampolines around. And then we've seen a lot of them disappear too. But there is a big need for families and families to be able to get together. One idea that we had was to put on the city website, a family link tab, where as families move into the area, they could, you could send them a flyer or even like a magnet, refrigerator magnet that has the website of City Hall, EMS phone numbers, police phone numbers, useful information like that. And even those magnets could be sponsored by local companies and realtors and things like that. That would be cheap advertising. It would go directly to the families. And then the families could network through that family link site to say, hey, come on over. We'd like to set our kids up with a play date and all that. And then young families could meet each other. So we thought that might be something that would be useful for families. Then also, we go around the golf course a lot and around the roads, and we've seen a lot of the trampolines and playscapes. And really haven't seen hardly anybody on those, except on hole number 1. Those seem to be utilized, but we've noticed kids kind of lose interest in things and they move on. And so perhaps those funds could be used on something that would directly help most of the residents around here, which one major thing we've noticed, and me as a walker, walking on the streets is pretty treacherous. There's a lot of speeding cars and things, but y'all had in your master plan, a suggestion for improving the trails and connecting the trails. And that I think would be fairly low maintenance cost and benefit a lot of the residents and let people be able to walk safely in the neighborhoods. Also improving the parks would be nice, the landscaping and benches. Also, I've noticed benches in other areas, and I couldn't get one for my sister in Monterey, but I noticed some of these benches are sponsored, and there may be people willing to sponsor benches and pay for a lost loved one or somebody that they just want to pay tribute to. So that could be some income, but also help beautify the parks. And then I have, for as far as the recreation for the seniors, because seniors need that as well. But I think most seniors, if they are interested in exercising, have in-home gyms or in-home treadmills and things. But it would be nice, and this is really a pretty big stretch, but if we could get lease Camp Judea at times, maybe twice a week, once a week for seniors and once a week for the whole residents, to come and utilize their facilities, because they've got plenty of places to park. They have a beautiful pool and tennis courts and things that people could be interested in using, like on a Monday and a Friday. Or
Well, thank you for your comments. I think we've kind of gone on to about 5 minutes now.
Okay, all right, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Also, speed cushions to slow the traffic down instead of speed bumps. Those wouldn't hurt
Thank you.
the miss, but that's a lot, but thank you very much for
Okay.
your time.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And then we have Radon Tilley. Hi, Radon.
Good morning. Good morning to all of you. On the second anniversary of Council's unanimous adoption of the Parks and Recreation Master Plan, I thank you for serving on this board and for visiting for the properties covered in the plan, with your intent now to take some action toward realizing that vision. That plan was a year in the making, so I'd say 3 years total gestation is more than enough time. As you begin with these 4 sites, please keep in mind the full scope of the plan, including the City Hall property and green space rights-of-way among the plan's 6 highest priorities. Please advocate also for preserving the trees on Woodcreek Drive in the road project ahead. We can add to them. You can add a 7th priority that is in the plan. Thanks to the Wimberley Valley Trails project, the trails, as was mentioned, that system has been accelerated, and so it no longer needs to be medium term in the plan. Trails can happen now, so let's go. In the minutes of your April 7th meeting, a motion to engage a landscape architect to develop a plan for Augusta Park, which I can support, was unfortunately then amended to be phrased as approaching vendors with staff landscape architects instead. This may seem a small point, but it makes all the difference. Would you start with a pharmacist to diagnose some pain or injury, or go to your doctor first and get a prescription that the pharmacist would then dispense? That's the relationship here. An independent landscape architect arrives at a solution tailored to you, not to the inventory of the vendor that a staff landscape architect represents. You may design something different than what this board last devised, but please do not compromise quality, appropriateness, and budget, all of which vastly improved when we transitioned from vendor's assistance to a true landscape professional. Their fee is well invested toward the best interests of the city of Woodcreek. Finally, mid-morning meetings also unfairly and unwisely exclude many, if not most, of the members of the community affected by Parks and Recreation. Please begin from the perspective of the citizens you serve. When can you meet to allow for their greatest participation? Your meetings should be designed around them. Every other municipality in this area holds evening meetings, not exclusively, but mostly. I count Dripping Springs, Kyle, Buda, and Blanco, where I was last night. All had council meetings last night alone. It comes with the territory that staff can expect a few evenings a month spent on meetings. I'd love to stay for today's meeting, but I work. So I ask, who serves whom? Camp Young Judea is incredibly thoughtful and accommodating, and there are other options. Please meet as the board of the citizens of the Woodcreek that you are. It's good to see Parks and Recreation have the chance to breathe again. Please allow yourselves the oxygen you need from the voices of the citizens you serve to keep your lifeblood flowing. Thank you.
Thanks, Ray Doug. Okay, now we're going to the consent agenda. Has everyone had a chance to review the minutes? And do we have a motion?
I make a motion that we accept the minutes from April 7th.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, do we have any discussion? Okay, Secretary, could you do a roll call, please?
Pat Rawlings,
Yeah.
Karen Poe,
Yes.
Cody Abney,
Yes.
Ruth Ann Gilbert,
Yes.
Jane Little.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Okay, it's unanimous. Thank you. Okay, now we get into the kind of the meat of the program. We've got 5 items on our agenda, and so they basically start with discussion. We don't have to make motions before we discuss, and then we can make motions derived from the discussion, from my understanding. Is that correct?
On this one you can, yes.
Okay, because they all start with a discussion. So we had a workshop meeting where we visited all of these locations and just had random discussions. We had citizen input, and we had some very good input from people that were tagging along, and it was very informative to us. Let's go to item number 2, discussion and take appropriate action on improvements to city-owned property on Brook Hollow Drive, designated as R49178. And would someone like to give their thoughts? We have discussion.
Just to clarify, that's the one at Creek.
Yeah, that's like the adjacent to Hog Creek.
I'd like to make a comment.
Mhm.
It appears that some really good work has been done to gather this information. And I want to acknowledge that.
Which information?
All of this information contained on this,
Oh, okay.
the equipment lists.
Yes, Cody and I, as a 2-person legal subcommittee of this group, put together an informal straw man list of potential items that could be used at these various locations. And so I handed a copy of that to each person here. These items were generally alluded to at both at our initial meeting, at our workshop meeting, and at the get-together at the golf course. So none of this is really new information. It's just a little bit more specific, and it's highly malleable. But we have a variety of items on it. And Cody contacted one of the leading playground manufacturers in the country and got us all copies of one of their catalogs. Would you like to talk a little bit about that?
Sure. First, I want to comment on the list that Ruth Ann was referring to. Some of these things are just, they're ideas. Some of them are wants.
Sure.
And some of the things on here are nuts and bolts, like trash can.
Mhm.
You know, there's got to be a trash can if you're going to have a public facility. But I would like to hear comments from the other board members on the ideas here today, because we can only meet in an open meeting. So I have no idea what your thoughts are.
Yes. Other members.
Okay, well, I am opposed to a basketball court. I don't think having anything poured, any concrete is going to be something that we need to have.
Yeah.
I'm opposed to that.
That was on the Brook Hollow.
Yes,
location.
yes, that's the one we're talking about right now.
Well, and the primary advocate for that is not present at the meeting right now.
The mayor, I believe.
Yeah, the mayor had put in a specific desirement for a basketball court somewhere in Woodcreek. So we were being responsive to that.
Yeah, I think maybe the basketball court idea we shouldn't take it completely off of the table, but I don't see how to fit it on the property at Brook Hollow.
Mhm.
And I don't know that it's best use of the property if we could fit it on there.
Yeah,
So,
especially adjacent to Hog Creek like that. I mean,
Yeah, you're
especially,
gonna-
you know.
Yeah,
without us building a
the impermeable.
impermeable
aspect of
cover,
it, yeah.
and we'd have to build an ordinance compliant fence, or the basketball would literally be in the bottom of the creek all day long. So
Yes.
that's
Yeah,
what- I don't know. Those are just my
sometimes
thoughts.
unintentionally, sometimes intentionally.
Exactly.
Oh, it went in the creek. I've got to go down to the creek and get
Yeah.
it.
Get some
So,
light.
yeah.
Well, I'm opposed to a basketball court there. So,
Okay,
I
well,
think that's a good point.
no
Karen.
one's terribly hard over on that. Like I said, these are just kind of general ideas at this point in time.
What do you think, Ruth Ann?
I want to discuss the parking because I was thinking that we might be able to incorporate some parking spots if we kind of did a windy drive in through that frontage area and had some spots, not just right on the street, but maybe further into the park. Have you,
That's something to think about. We
Yeah.
do have to keep the impermeable cover in the back of our mind, because
well,
we
it
like
would
to have an
always,
improved road
I-
surface.
yeah, I think it would always be composed to granite, something like that, that most of the parks have.
Is
So-
the parking area over there on Augusta Park 100% permeable?
Yes, it is.
Yes.
Okay, so we could just adhere to that
It's
general
just grass isn't it,
design.
over there.
Well,
Yeah.
Well,
what we have
no.
there, we
Crushed
have
limestone.
the,
Oh, that's
the
right.
grid, and then we have proposed granite. Yeah.
On top of it.
Okay,
Off- right
so
off.
no skin off
the lane.
anyone's back with
Yeah.
that.
I mean, I know
And-
it'd be more expensive, but just to get a few more spots in there, some parking spots.
Mhm.
I'd like to get an idea of the lay of the land for that piece of property, so that we could see what we could fit in there. I mean,
Exactly.
Pat has the ability to do all kinds of things with computer software and imaging, and I
Okay.
think we're probably at the mock-up stage. And that's like.
Well,
not as fast.
and one thing I wanted to ask the city to do was to stake all of the pins that are presently located there. I was thinking about reaching beyond that and asking for a survey
I'm with you on that.
on
On that-
staking the pins or the survey.
Both.
Oh,
I think
okay.
a survey, we're going to get to the point of a survey sometime, where there's going to have to be a survey done on the property.
Well, and basically that would have to be a recommendation to the city council, so it would be funded because it's not funded right now.
Do you
for
have any
survey.
rough idea of what a simple survey without, since there's next to nothing on the property, it would be basically finding the pins and drawing.
When we
transformer
had,
box.
our engineers do the survey just to find the pins, just off the top of my head, it was right around about, $600 per property. But that was no documentation. That was just find the pins.
And flag them.
Yeah, right.
I would think that we would want to have a civil survey done with a CAD file attached to it as a deliverable on that expense, because a landscape architect is immediately going to want a CAD file.
Okay.
They're going to want to be able to do topo imaging.
Whether they work for a company or are independent.
That's correct.
Okay.
I don't want to muddy the water, but Ray Don made a great point too.
Mm-hmm.
About a survey.
No,
Oh,
about
about
an independent
engineer.
landscape architect.
However, on the Brook Hollow property, it's essentially, it's as flat as a pool table.
Yeah.
I mean, if we have the trees located in a survey, which they would be, that's really all the information an architect needs. There's not any real topo challenges on that, topographical challenges.
Augusta
elevation
Park
changes.
is a whole nother ball of wax,
Mhm.
but we have a very nice topo survey.
Yeah, we do.
Of
Yeah,
Yeah,
Augusta
they
Park.
do. They don't locate anything on it, but yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, we would have to, does it show the bocce ball court on it?
No.
Really?
No, because that was probably at the beginning of the actual grant application that they had to show the property.
Oh, yeah, it was 2015.
So maybe we could get that updated?
It may, if, well, we're down to the next, one of the other
Stick
agenda
on our
items. Let's
agenda.
stay on
Okay.
two right now.
So I want to hear from the other board members about the Brook Hollow issue, so we can move on to the others probably, Pat,
Mhm.
for in the interest of time. I'd like
Yeah.
to know what Jane Little has to say.
Well, I would like to say that I think finding whether or not things like this are going to be useful and used would be one of the things I'd like our board to address. And I realize that I believe the city is looking at a survey going out, being mailed to all citizens. Is that going to be coming?
We have been meeting with a company to do the survey. Actually, the survey's been prepared by the city council. We're finalizing the product, and it will be hand delivered to every residential unit in the city. And plus, we got a few commercial with a 2-week return. So we're estimating we'll have the results, we hope, by the mid part of June.
Okay. Are any of the questions related to
Recreational.
use of recreational
Yes.
equipment?
Well, there is questions related to having recreational facilities.
Okay.
Yes or no, yes or no, do you want
Or,
them?
it's like any other survey, ranks and stuff like that.
I may be getting outside the scope of item number 2, but I was involved in the development of getting the bocce ball court at Augusta Park and the picnic benches. And we had visions of adding some recreational equipment there for children.
Mhm.
Yeah, Pat, you want to skip down to that, since I think that's one of the main topics we're talking about right now. Just go down to.
Well, I
right
don't
now.
want to lose the items we want to address on the
Right.
Brook Hollow.
Right.
I think, I agree, we definitely need to discuss that, but,
I guess what I'm getting at, and you asked for my comments and thoughts, is if we spend or if we are able to get money from either Hayes County, which we are still going to have to put some of our own money in, will areas like that actually be utilized by our citizens? And as a board, how can we be a little smarter about what we do? Yes, our community is changing. I heard Sherry Lynn talking. Probably Sherry Lynn and Craig know more about the backyards of Woodcreek than anyone in the room, because every night they get in their golf cart and they travel the trail, and so they know what's going on in the backyards. How do young families provide recreation for their kids? Do they have play dates in the backyard? Do they rely on other playscapes such as schools or Blue Hole Park? And would these kinds of equipment, with the kind of equipment we're talking about, actually be utilized? I don't know if we know that.
well, supposedly the vaccinations for 12 to 15-year-olds will be approved today.
I'm not talking about.
Just let me finish. I
Okay.
let you talk for a long
Okay.
time.
Sorry.
And then they're going to move on down. During COVID, you have had a great restriction of children informally getting together to use recreational facilities. They do at school. but a lot of the parents get together and have play dates with their kids. And I have personal experience with two families that have a lot of children playing on the equipment in their yards, since there's nothing in Woodcreek for their kids to play on. And were there a general meeting place for the kids to get together and play that wasn't just at someone's house, so someone didn't have to go to the additional trouble of providing refreshments for the whole group? It's like everybody grab a cooler and go down to the park. I think you would also have less informal playscapes and otherwise unattractive equipment in backyards if you could have some more attractive and durable equipment in central locations. The people wouldn't feel motivated to erect primary colored things in the backyard, which as a next door neighbor, you really can't do anything about. But as a parks board, we can be very careful about the appearance of these items when we put them in, so they blend in with the surroundings. And I think that COVID has really distorted what you might have otherwise seen. That's my opinion.
And I'll support the statement you made about primary colors. I don't think anyone in this town would like to see something out there that's, bright red and yellow. There are options in designs that some of these vendors have that specifically make the playscape blend into the landscape, and they can match with a whole palette of colors wherever you're trying to put the playscape. And I would like to say that whatever we decide here, it probably needs to be architecturally consonant with the general makeup of the Woodcreek architecture. That's, in other words, it can't stick out like a sore thumb. And that's one of my key. If we're gonna do something like that, that's what I want a big focus put on.
One thing that we were very cognizant of is you look at Augusta Park, and that's kind of in the front yards of a number of houses. So it's especially important for those folks that when they look out, it's not some jarring something out there for them, and that it blends in and is more organic. On Brook Hollow, it's set back and it's bordered on one side by Hog Creek and golf course property, so it's not right in someone's backyard. And then it's adjacent to another property that we can put a privacy fence up and block. So, and we're still not talking primary colored stuff.
Okay, so I'd like to address the fencing. Do we have to put up fencing, or is that going to be necessary?
Brenton?
No, it's not a requirement to put fencing up.
And I put that on the list as, I probably should have ended that with a question mark when I put it on the list. So it's something to look at. Do we need to put up fencing?
It's probably just on a case-by-case basis. If there is some safety or neighbor appearance sort of reason for it, and you might put up something, but not to it's not to completely isolate it from the environment.
And a landscape architect would probably address that also.
Yeah.
I mean, because like on Augusta Park, we don't have a fence there.
No. Well, one thing I was hoping we might be able to do at this meeting is to actually have the Brook Hollow property be designated as a park area. It is currently just a city-owned property. And also that we recommend that it be cleared and made safe. There is currently a large broken top of a tree that's over a foot in diameter that is just hanging there. And when you push on it with your hand, it moves.
Yeah, very large.
And
tree.
if it were to break off and fall on somebody, it'd kill them. So I would like to, I think, advocate for clearing the lot, having it named as a park. And then to, I think we're going to set up a meeting probably with Brent and myself and the guy with the golf course and just find out how much they might allow us to move over.
And possibly ask for
Well,
a
should we
survey.
wait to designate it as a park until we know how much area we're going to have there?
I looked at the Hayes Appraisal District, and we also looked at the pins at our workshop. I personally think it has enough room for a pocket park and parking for about 3 cars minimum. Cody measured it out with the tape.
There might actually be
We
one
might be
car
able to
handicap.
do something like you suggested and allocate more parking somehow. But I think that I don't think it would hurt to name it as a park. I mean, Augusta Park has been named as a park, and it has a bocce ball court. And the bocce ball court is not used. If you look in every backyard of almost every house except for one in the city of Woodcreek, there's not a bocce ball court. I mean, but if you look in a bunch of the backyards, you do see a lot of playscapes. And so I do think, just looking at those numbers skewed against one another, I just think it was the choice of the recreational equipment that was placed there, and potentially the predisposition of some of the people that wanted to have something there, that they were more interested in that than they were in other things. So does anyone want to make a motion about this at all, or?
I'll be happy to move that we do we have to ask city council
We proposed to city council.
that the Brook Hollow lot be cleared, that it be named as a park, and that we ask for a survey.
Can I ask a question about the motion, the specific language being used?
Certainly.
I don't think we want to say clear the lot. We just want to clean it
I'm
up.
sorry.
Cleaned up.
Clean,
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
right. Thank
clear.
you.
Oh, clear.
Sorry.
Sounds like
Yeah,
you're cutting
clean.
down
cleared
trees.
being
Clean,
scraped.
yes.
Yep. Clean it up and get rid of the dead tree, which is a hazard. That's
Just
Is that
make
your
the lot
Well, mow it,
safe
mow
for
it,
someone.
mow it down some. I mean, you
Yeah,
want to see
and-
what you have.
And loose rocks that aren't architecturally significant be moved out of the way so someone could mow it.
Could we divide that motion into 3 parts? 1, clear it, 1, ask for a survey, and 3, name it as a park.
yes, I believe that would be 3 separate.
You'd
motions.
have to ask the original person that made the motion.
Yes, Karen, I'd be happy to adjust that. But I need to get my Robert's Rules of Order cheat sheet out here.
Oh, Lord. Well, it has to go back to the original person
I
making the
move that
motion.
this motion be amended
Mhm.
and divided into 3 motions. First, to clean up the lot. Second, to ask that a survey be done on the
The
lot.
second motion.
Second motion would be asking for a survey with all the trees located.
Do we have to
You need to
do
vote on
one
each
motion at a
Yeah,
time?
we gotta-
We have to do one motion at a
Okay.
time. So make
Motion
your
one.
first, motion one.
That we clean the lot.
I'll second that motion.
Discussion? Roll call, Secretary?
Jane Little,
Yes.
Ruth Ann Gilbert,
Yes.
Cody Abney,
Yes.
Karen Poe,
Yes.
Pat Rowan.
Yes. Your second motion?
I move that we ask for a survey of that lot, Brook Hollow lot that we are considering for the park.
I'll second that.
Discussion? Secretary, roll call, please.
Okay. Cody Aveney,
Yes.
Ruth Ann Gilbert,
Yes.
Karen Powell.
Eh?
Karen,
Oh, yes, sorry.
Pat Rollins,
Yes.
and Jean Little.
Yes.
And finally, I move that we name the Brook Hollow Park. Now, I'm not sure.
Name it as a park? I don't
As a
think,
The
park.
motion would be to designate it
Designate.
as a park,
yeah,
Okay.
because it would have to be by ordinance.
because I bet the council's going to be all, if it becomes a park, they're going to be all about figuring out who they can name it for, or
Right.
what they're
Okay.
naming it.
Let me amend that proposal. I move that we ask city council to designate the Brook Hollow lot as a park.
I'll second that.
Discussion? Okay, roll call, please.
Ruth Ann Gilbert,
Yes.
Jean Little,
Yes.
Pat Rollins,
Yes.
Karen Powell,
Yes,
Cody Aveney.
Yes.
Thank you, unanimous on all three counts. So we go on to the second one, which is discussion and.
Can I say one more thing, Pat? I'd have a little bit more discussion here. I want to ask the other members of the board. The catalog that I gave all of you is from a manufacturer, Game Time. Their distributor in the area is Total Recreation Products in San Antonio, and they have partnerships with a manufacturing facility in San Marcos. So it's really, these are local people, kind of. Their vice president of, their regional vice president actually called me right before this meeting started. He wants to run some ideas by me, I guess, but I don't want to, I'm not going to assume anything. Are the rest of the board members, would it be okay if I talked to this guy and got a concept or two or three to bring to the next meeting as part of the packet possibly? Because that's the only way I can do it legally.
Well, and I
So that y'all
think
can look at it.
anybody on the committee that wants to bring ideas forward to
That
the
was-
meetings,
That was
there's
the next
nothing
point I
wrong
was
with
going to
that.
make,
is that-
Pat.
Yeah.
I am not going to, I don't want to do this in a vacuum without input from anyone who wants to provide input. But if I can go and get some ideas, some things we can look at, we can say, yes, we like this, no, draw a line through that. I mean, it's a starting point at least, and it doesn't cost anything. So if the rest of the board is okay with that, I will go down that path with this guy, possibly to include a site visit with him and let him use a tape measure on it.
I'm
And
definitely in
maybe
favor
there,
of that.
go ahead, Ruth Ann.
Well, I don't see that company's name on the list, approved list. Is that going to be a problem?
Game Time
Game
is,
time is,
Game Time is.
yeah, game time is on the
Buy board?
buy board. But
Oh,
yeah,
I see. I see. I'm sorry.
yeah,
Are they on there as TPR or as
No,
game time?
I guess you don't get to deal with Game Time directly. You have to go through a licensed distributor.
Sure.
right.
And these guys,
Are
TRP
they?
in
Okay.
San Antonio, have
Thank you. I'm
they have a
sorry.
lot of horsepower.
Yeah.
They're a big deal.
And
Cool.
I understand they also have some sort of grant program where that some of the pricing you see can be diminished by as much as 50%.
That's correct. There is a yearly grant program. They issue the grant applications in July of each year. They did send me last year's application so I could get a look at it. If you spend a significant amount of money on equipment with them, they will match it 100%. So if you
There's a
spend-
certain minimum threshold.
If you spend $100,000 with them, they give you $100,000 worth of equipment as a match. Not everyone is available for the grant, but when I described our specific situation that we were considering purchasing playground equipment for the first time for the city of Woodcreek, he told us that they would basically be a slam dunk for the grant.
Well-
Now, I'm not saying we spend that amount of money.
No.
I'm just saying that it's there.
But the thing to remember is the reason that we are being as ambitious as we are with the variety of parks and equipment and such is we have a very narrow window of opportunity with Hayes County, which approved the $75 million parks bond. And we have a county commissioner that is very supportive of basically helping us pay for at least 75% of this. And then we would have to match 25% of it. But it is my understanding that there are sometimes grants available, and I'm not even sure if the grant he's talking about could be rolled into that in any way.
It'd be rolled, just off the top of my head, it'd be rolled in as part of, so you would apply for 100,000 for, that's a round figure. I know it won't be that much, but say $100,000 from the county, knowing that you're going to get 100,000 on the backside, additional equipment.
Mm-hmm.
So you would still have to come up with a 25% match.
Okay.
Because this is not like a grant program through the LCRA or the PEC.
It's a discount.
Right, it's a discount.
It's a discount labeled as a grant.
That's right.
Is that kind of correct?
It is. That,
Yeah.
at the end of the day, it's
Yeah.
a for-profit business. So
Yeah, there's
somewhere in there's some marketing hiding.
yeah, it's kind of like you go to a jewelry store and everything's 50% off.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, exactly. But
and they mark it up twice. So.
it's something, I think it's something worth investigating. And I
Absolutely.
really need to I feel like I need to get something together and get it in front of you so you actually have something to look at.
Yeah, because we need
Semi-concrete.
to, there are some dates for the, is it the POSAC committee to meet?
Mhm.
That is going to be looking at the different proposals that come in. And I've heard something like the middle of July
Mhm.
is when they are going to be looking at this.
And basically, you just need to come up with the, not the exact equipment, but how much money you would be asking for.
Yeah. And it's also, you kind of give them that and it's kind of a foot in the door, but you can amend or add to it up to 7 days before the final presentations. So you kind of go in saying, well, we're going to do this. And then 7 days before, oh, and then we're going to do this and this and this and this, or so you do something else differently. So we don't have to get and I think that's going to happen in August or September.
The amendment period is good. Generally, a contractor's pricing is only good for 30 days after it's submitted. So, I mean, with the fluctuations in commodities,
Materials costs.
yeah, who knows what it's going to be like in 30 days. So,
Yeah.
that's a good thing.
Okay, so item number 3, discussion and take appropriate action about improvements to the area known as the Triangle at the intersection of Woodcreek Drive and Brook Hollow Drive. Do we have some discussion on that?
Well, let me point out first is that the triangle is actually a part of the street system right now. There is no pins out there or anything else. It is actually part of the roadway system.
So we're operating in the right of way.
Right.
Would there,
How can we delineate that property from the surrounding roadway? It's bordered on 3 sides by a roadway.
Yeah.
Mhm. It just, well, it's all city property.
Yeah.
You know, so if you wanted to recommend to the council to do a survey for the actual park area, so that if there's any improvements done to any other part of the roadways, that it doesn't encroach in it.
That would be
Because the
good.
way it's developed right now, we could pave over it if we needed to.
Yeah. This is going to be a continuing theme. You can't do anything with a property until the property is defined, and it's not defined legally until it's on a survey. So we need to reach legal definition of property with each of the properties we're discussing. That's what I think. It's just my opinion, but I'm going to put it out there.
I think we ought to recommend it to council.
I believe we should.
Yeah. And the things that have been discussed about the triangle are much simpler because of its central nature and how it's such a visually important part of our city. When we were doing the workshop, I and others have brought up a gazebo out there. And I'd heard a concern from one of the previous park board members that the triangle wasn't all that large. But I went out there before the meeting today, and the longest side of it's 180 feet long. The next longest side is 166 feet, and then the third side is 155 feet. And so the discussion we were having was maybe putting in a 16-foot diameter octagonal gazebo there, which the diameter of that is less than 1/10 of the two major sides. So even with the existing trees and such, I don't think it would be all that intrusive.
If we're going to put a structure up there, I'd like to see it large enough to be usable for an event. I don't mean.
What's an
it needs to be
event?
Well,
Maybe
the events I have in my mind are a little bit ill-defined right now. I don't know exactly what we would do over there, but I'm sure that if we put something up, there would be something there. But if it was too small to actually be usable, I'm afraid it wouldn't be used at all.
maybe like
Well,
a band, music.
Yep.
A concern that
Bingo.
I've heard voiced is that if you make it event oriented, then you have parking issues. And we do, I was looking at the edges of the triangle, and a lot of the edges are very worn from constable parking and other people parking, contractor parking. So we might go ahead and put a parallel parking area in a couple of places on there that would be more presentable to, than just the worn out grass that we have right now. And 50% of the homes in Woodcreek already have that sort of setup anyway, and it is 100% permeable.
And half of Woodcreek has a golf cart.
Yeah, a golf cart. And one of the items that we have on the list for all of these is bicycle racks. And you have one thing I do see a tremendous amount of in Woodcreek is walkers. Just everybody walks.
Yep.
And that was something we didn't mention. It was kind of a detail on Brook Hollow, kind of going back for just a second, is having a trail that goes down the side of Hog Creek there. So to use and it kind of provides a little natural boundary, but that's the sort of thing that, could be incorporated in any of these. So do we have any more discussion, any motions?
I want to ask about the night vision cameras. I understand the interest in that, but how is that information going to be translated to the general public on the website? If there's any animal sightings, what is that for?
It would be more in case of vandalism or something, that if people knew, over at Woodcreek North, the gentleman that's in charge of the parks over there has put in game cameras.
Okay.
So as to dissuade people from vandalizing the property. So if you know that, Smile, you're on camera, and they post signs to that effect. And then you can retrieve the game cameras. Somebody here know about game cameras?
I do. I
do too.
have night vision game cameras with cellular modems, and it updates. I'll actually get an alert on my telephone, and I can look at the photograph right there in real time, or video.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't think of
But
that.
there's all sorts of options
Vandalism
on that.
aspect
It's
of it,
mainly
yes.
vandalism is
Okay.
the reason.
And
Not in case we have a mountain lion walking through the,
Well, that would be cool, but
That would be
yeah.
cool.
that
No.
technology is
Yeah.
fairly inexpensive also.
it is.
Yeah, I paid less than $300 for my setups.
Okay. Any more discussion on the triangle?
I think we need to go ahead and get it surveyed before we start designating it as a park or getting it, trying to decide what we're going to put on there.
Can we do it kind of like the first one we did? Do we need to have that as three different
Karen,
motions?
let me ask, what's your reservation on having it declared a park? I'm afraid that Brenton's going to go over there and pave it.
No, I guess my thought is if we don't have enough room there to do anything with it, just leave it natural and not do anything with it.
If we don't have enough what, Karen?
If we don't have enough room there to really put anything there, then just leave it the way it is and not
I think
spend
there is
money on it.
plenty of room, but
Well, we're generally, the ideas that we've been talking about are not big items. It's mainly, the only big item is the gazebo, and then you have a trash can, a bike rack. You replace the two crummy,
benches.
deteriorating benches, stuff like that. It's not like we're going to put playscapes over there. or
Would there be
anything like that.
electricity?
There is
It
electricity.
has
There is,
electricity.
okay. All
It
right.
has electricity and water, which are both major
Wonderful,
benefits of that. That's one of the reason I ask is that property has a lot going for it.
Mhm.
As a city park, it's further ahead in development somewhat than the other properties because it has electricity.
And
water.
you also had a commitment from Aqua to provide a water fountain, but not the installation over there for that
Well, in some city park,
at some
At
city
some-
park.
but that's the only one.
But it would make
it's-
sense
it's
because that's
with
the only
water
one
right
that has
now,
water
right?
going to it.
Yeah.
And it's centrally located for walkers and bicyclers so they could stop and get a drink.
Are there any other benefits to the city in declaring that as a park other than just getting it out of the road? You know, it's not designated as roadway. Does it free our hands to do anything else? Does it free council's hands to do anything else that
No.
really?
Basically, by designating it as a park would save it as a green space.
Okay.
I like
And, but
that.
yeah, I can see nothing in the future about anything happening there.
No,
Yeah.
we
and
want to
when-
preserve green space.
Yeah, and when Woodcreek Drive is actually reconstructed or repaired, it's not going to decrease the width of Woodcreek Drive at all over there.
Through there.
So
Okay.
So
I think we should go for the parks recommendation, but along with getting a survey. I don't see a drawback to doing that. Is there something I'm missing? Is there a drawback that we're not?
So can do we have a
What do you think,
motion?
Karen?
I'm okay.
Okay.
Somebody like to make a motion?
I will.
Okay.
I move that we ask City Council for a survey of the triangle.
I'll second that.
Roll call?
Karen Poe,
Yes.
Jane Little,
Aye.
Ruth Ann Gilbert,
Yes.
Cody Abney,
Yes.
Pat Rawling,
Yes.
motion carried.
Do we have any other motions about whether it's a park?
Yeah, I've got a motion. I move that we recommend to the city council that they declare the area known as the Triangle as a city park.
I second that. I think I'm allowed to.
you're
Okay.
allowed to second, and
Okay.
you may make a motion also.
Okay, I'm trying not to make. Any discussion? Roll call?
Cody Abney,
Yes.
Pat Rawling,
Yes.
Jane Little,
Yes.
Karen Poe,
Yes.
Ruth Ann Gilbert.
Yes.
Okay, and it's unanimous.
So we've moved to recommend a survey be performed.
Mhm.
We've moved that it's made a park. What else can we do in this meeting with that property?
Good point, good point. The other thing that I would like to, on the first, could you read me the motions back on number 2?
The first one was that the park be cleaned up.
Mm-hmm.
The second one was that the survey be done, and the third one was designated as a park to the city council.
Okay. Okay, on this one, I think I would like to move that we recommend erecting a gazebo in the middle of the triangle.
Do we want to call it a gazebo or do we want to call it a
Pavilion.
structure?
Structure.
Okay,
A structure with a roof. I mean,
yes.
um,
Is it, just for discussions,
Yeah.
I'm going to try to get us something on a playscape to look at.
mhm.
Can we get together some concepts on what we would like, some things to choose from for concept design of a structure at the Triangle for the next meeting? And make that also part of the
Would
packet?
someone like to look at those options?
Karen, you want to?
Okay,
Jane and
Yeah.
I can do it.
Okay, that'd be great.
okay. Yeah, you've got a website, right?
So, so I move that what was the wording, a structure? I don't know, that seems awfully vague. That could be a playscape.
You're right.
Um,
What do we want to call it? I don't know about the word gazebo.
Pavilion.
Pavilion,
That could be
that sounds too big.
too open.
Yeah, it does.
Mm-hmm.
How about
A covered
Maybe we need
structure.
to define this.
A covered structure,
an appropriate covered structure?
appropriate covered structure. Okay,
Appropriate's kind of
Gazebo
open-ended.
structure.
yeah.
So, and what action would the council be able to take on that recommendation? If we don't have a concept in front of them,
I don't think,
we don't have a
we
survey,
don't have a budget, yeah.
we don't have a budget.
No.
We
I'm just
wait
not
on
sure
that.
what.
It's a waste of time. So I made the motion.
I'm trying to get,
I don't
want
hear
to
a
do something
second.
too, but I'm not sure what to do.
Yeah. I guess you're right. So I don't hear a second.
Shall we
So I
table
guess the
that motion?
motion, I'm not even table, the motion just at this time
It's died.
died. So, okay.
Is there anything else that we can do with it aside from what we've already moved on?
Okay.
Anybody else have any ideas?
What about the deteriorated benches being perhaps removed? And, I mean, if we could figure out a good location, of course, if we're going to put a structure there, it would be hard to decide where to put the benches
Mhm.
without
Do
knowing.
we know?
I was looking at the benches this morning and they're on concrete. So not having to redo the concrete, I would think would be good. Or is the position of the benches a desirable location? I mean, looks like they're
Are
under
they
a tree.
tree?
They're under a tree, you know?
We
That's
can always add
desirable.
more.
So you could just, I'm not sure I want to have them removed until we can replace them. I mean, you can still probably sit on them without hurting yourself.
We might want to take a look at the overall layout of the property if we do decide.
Yeah,
on a
so we
structure
need
out
to
there.
probably defer that till you guys come back with some of your ideas.
It looks to me like when those benches were placed, the tree canopy since has totally changed. Not to say they're not under shade, but also the ground is, the soil is obviously not at the
Yeah.
same level it was when that concrete was placed either, because the concrete's out of the ground 3 or 4 inches, which is not a normal concrete footing construction
Right.
situation. Things have changed since
Are
those
you
benches
saying
were
we
Right.
had erosion?
a little bit. It
Dude.
does slope downhill to Hog Creek right there. So we might want to take a look at that when we start looking at overall layout of structures and improvements that we're going to make and see if it makes sense to.
So do
salvage.
we need a motion to have Jane and Karen look at the amenities at Triangle Park? Or is
Sure.
that just, you just ask them to do it?
Do we need to appoint a subcommittee?
No,
Is that-
I would recommend appointing a subcommittee.
Okay, appoint a subcommittee. So I would like to move that we appoint a subcommittee comprised of Jane Little and Karen Poe to look at the amenities for the area known as the Triangle.
And I'll second that.
I have a question before we vote on that.
Mm-hmm.
So we're a subcommittee. Are we going to get in trouble if we don't post every time we meet?
As long as there's only 2 members, but you cannot speak to anyone else on the board until you come to the meeting. You can't tell Pat, well, this is where we're at on this subject. It'll be
Okay.
just between the 2 of
But
y'all.
if we had 3 people on it,
Then you'd have to post it.
then you have to post.
Then it'd be a
Yes.
public meeting, yeah.
All right. Okay.
So
Keep
we're
it
gonna
at
have
2.
2-person subcommittees on the,
On all of any of
Yeah, on any of this, so, okay, let's see, I made that motion, didn't I?
And I seconded
It
it.
was
You seconded it. Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Pat Ron,
Aye.
Cody Aveney,
Aye.
Jane Little,
Yes.
Karen Coe,
Yes.
Ruth Ann Gilbert.
Yes.
Tricked me.
Thank you. Okay, moving to item number 4, discuss and take appropriate action on improvements to Augusta Park. And it is already a park, and we do have a survey, but it is a survey without the existing amenities on it. It was done before it was improved. So I would think we would want to have an updated survey on that.
This is done in 2015. Does anybody know where this civil engineer is from? Or land surveyor? Are they out of San Marcos or something like that?
I have no idea. I
We could
wasn't here.
probably
I can look it
find the
up.
same people. They probably have the CAD file and they could just update it.
I would bet that an updated survey, if they already have the CAD file, would probably be in the range of $500. And I think we should move to have an updated survey done. Because they're just going to go out there and shoot bench corners, the bocce ball corners, draw it in, and then we'd have an updated CAD file that an architect could use if they needed to.
I'll second that.
Are you ready?
Discussion?
Should I make a motion?
Oh, I thought you just said you move.
I move
Oh,
that this
okay.
board recommends to the Woodcreek City Council that an updated survey be performed on the park at Augusta Lane, and if possible, use the same surveyor we used in 2015 because, well, we can reuse their CAD files.
I second that.
Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Cody Aveney,
I'm sorry?
Cody Aveney,
Yes.
Got to vote.
Coe,
Yes.
Ruth Ann Gilbert,
Yes.
Jane Little,
Aye.
Pat Ron.
Aye. Okay, the motion passes unanimously. Now, that's just one motion on number 4. I'd like to stay on number 4. And I have been giving a lot of thought to how to take and build upon some of the work that was done by the previous Parks Committee on Augusta Park. And I have kind of a unique capability of being able to make almost photographically real depictions of what might be on that property. And so I would like to see that maybe I and Cody, with his construction expertise, become a subcommittee that brings forward some ideas for how to outfit Augusta Park. And we could seek input from anyone who might be concerned about any predispositions that Cody and I have toward that park. And you could bring those forward right now so we could filter those into our designs.
I would suggest that you look at the grant that was awarded by PEC to make sure that you do not infringe on any of the areas that PEC originally approved for that area.
How is the boundary of the wetlands defined?
Well, we'd have to look at it. That's why, yeah.
Does it have actually a definition of exactly
I
where it
believe
is?
it does. You know, I wasn't here, but I mean, when the application went into the PEC, there was a lot of things that were being designated where they would be
Okay,
located.
we would like to have a copy of that sent to all of the members if possible. That would be very helpful. So, does anyone have any concerns with us doing that, or would you, what are your thoughts?
Well, I had one thought. I know we were also looking at the entrance area and putting in some things for old people.
Not
That,
seniors.
yeah, well, whatever. And I have reservations, which we'll discuss when we talk about the entrance. But I was thinking perhaps we could do some of that in Augusta Park. So if you could maybe look at some of that, see if there's the possibility of putting something there.
It's worth looking into.
Yeah. No, because Augusta Park has a lot of little pockets of areas that are otherwise difficult to deal with. And so, yeah,
That's
You
just
know.
my thought.
that's a good idea.
If the subcommittee of two is going to look at some of the things that you've listed, those ideas seem very appropriate for that landscape. As we know, it's a sloping site with I guess a dry creek bed running through it. And some of the things that we've started there, the picnic tables, the bocce ball court, the idea of the disc golf seems appropriate for that landscape, as does
Kind of small footprint items.
the cornhole game.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the things you've listed seem they're really appropriate for that particular site.
Didn't we talk about the bocce ball court being redone or cleaned up?
Improved, yeah.
That, and yeah,
Right.
that's a motion I'm prepared to make today too.
The need-
Okay,
the
could
need of
you
it.
be more specific? You mean just kind of restored?
Restored, that's a good word.
Restored,
Yes.
okay.
And also it should be ADA compliant.
Oh,
How
okay.
does that work on budget?
And that is something else we are thinking about for some of the ideas on Augusta Park, is that one thing that was shown on the plan from the previous Parks Committee was like a semicircular seating area around the big tree. And I've been giving a lot of thought with input from Cody about making that a semicircular platform that could have maybe some ramps. The back of the platform could maybe be 2 feet off the ground with some ramps where someone could roll up onto it, and then have some sort of railing around it that could either be made out of logs or some sort of durable structure that you might even be able to put web climbing ropes on the outside of, that just kind of blend into the wood structure and gives the kids something to play on. Because when I talked to the guy at Woodcreek North, he said one of the biggest uses of their parks was kids just like to climb all over everything.
Yeah.
So if you can give them some kind of organic things, and I know you have some great ideas on was it glass reinforced concrete and the company in San Marcos, because you could have like a giant glass reinforced log that looks like it just was there.
It looks like a log.
It looks like a log, but it could be something that the kids could play on, or, you know, they make all sorts of very natural
permanent,
looking kind of
Yeah.
Peter Pan sort of, or Honey, I Shrunk the Kids sort of things that,
It's also interesting that the glass fiber reinforced concrete that makes, they make natural looking boulders and rocks and logs and things. That that's the single source nationwide for playground equipment, and it happens to be located in San Marcos. So if we purchase something from them, our shipping might be $150, whereas everyone else in the country pays thousands of dollars for shipping. It's just
yeah.
trivia,
You
but
could go pick him up.
Yeah, we could just get a
yeah,
skid steer.
Save
I was warned that they're very heavy, very,
Yeah.
very
I
heavy.
bet, yeah.
Yeah, you probably have to have a special trailer for it or something.
Probably so.
Okay. My ADD is kicked in, so I'm kind of lost now.
Well, I'm gonna move that we recommend to City Council that the bocce ball court be refurbished to include replacement of boards in the interior and reconstitution of the decomposed granite surface.
I second that motion.
Discussion?
And in that motion, I may have to amend it. I probably should have said that the city allocate funding. Did I say that?
No.
I did not. How do I make an amendment? I would like to amend my motion to change the language to recommend the city council allocate funds for the refurbishment of the bocce ball court.
Do we need to do that with any other motions that incur cost? Or is it implicit in the motion?
Well, I think when you're talking about having the surveys, that's already, we know that, it's going to have a cost. And no, I think it's fine that just allocate the funds for the refurbishing of the bocce ball court would be good.
Okay, okay.
And the motion's been seconded?
I
You
second.
seconded it. So any further discussion? Okay, could we do a roll call on that, please?
Before we do a roll call, could we consider amending the motion to also include the construction of an ADA ramp? Or is that-
I was gonna make that a separate
Okay.
motion. What I don't want is for the funding for the refurbishment of the court as is to be tied up in the funding for the ADA, because the scale is gonna be a lot different for the two. One's gonna be a couple $100 and the other one's gonna be a couple $1,000. It's not compliant right now, and you can't play with it. At least let's get it where we can play with it, and then we'll get the ADA compliance, and that can be another motion right after this one.
Good idea. Okay, so, but we still have the previous motion that we do need
Roll call.
roll call on, please.
Okay. Cody Atkins,
Yes.
Karen Poe,
Yes.
Jane Little,
Yes.
Ruth Ann Gilbert,
Yes.
Pat Ron.
Yes. And the motion carries unanimously. Okay, now you were about to make a follow-on motion.
I recommend that this board, or I move that this board recommend to the city council that this is complicated, that the city allocate funds for an ADA study to be performed on the bocce ball court and remedial measures needed to bring the court into ADA compliance. Does that make sense?
I second the motion.
Right.
Did you get all of that? That was pretty.
Yeah, well, so an ADA consultant is going to have to look at what we have. And then we're going to have to act on that consultant's advice, which can probably be done through a local mason. I think that's all, because we're going to have to match the masonry work on it. Or at least that would be my expectation.
But there are a lot of masons out here that
And it's
can
cheap.
match things
I know.
dead, yeah. I've got the name of one on my cell phone, so.
I mean, I can go out there with a smart level and tell you if it's ADA compliant or not, but I'm not an ADA consultant for a living.
So,
Here, Jane.
any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Cody Atkins,
Yes.
Jane Little,
Yes.
Ruth Ann Gilbert,
Yes.
Karen Poe,
Yes.
Pat Ron.
Yes. The motion passes unanimously. And so now we get to item number 5, discuss and take appropriate action on improvements to city-owned property on the south side of the entrance to the city on Woodcreek Drive, otherwise known as R48798.
Is there any reason not to get this property designated as a park? Because we all know it floods every time it rains, so
I know.
it might as well be a park. Does anybody feel differently?
No,
What is it now?
it's just a green space.
It's just property. It's not even zoned as green space.
It's just
Empty lot.
city-owned land.
It's city-owned property.
What's the benefit of designating it as a park?
To designate it as a park, name it, and basically, when you make application to the county, if you put any facilities in there.
Yeah,
It's known
we
as a park.
probably would need it, like you said, have it as a place where we can get funding for items to put in it.
So if it's designated as a park, it essentially becomes a magnet for money.
That's right.
Yeah, a canvas that you can paint on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
think we should designate it as a park. Does anyone else want to make a motion?
Um,
Do we need to get it surveyed?
I think we're probably in the same boat with,
Well, if we're already having the other properties resurveyed, you can
Mhm.
probably get a bundle deal on all of this stuff. So we probably need to do that as well.
And the property pins are out there.
So it's not like they are starting from scratch.
and the survey crew that comes out will probably come out and do all of the properties in one day.
Yeah. And this is not a survey with the trees located or anything. This would just be kind of a simple, or would you
They
recommend?
will locate trees
Huh?
on that property. It would be my understanding, I would ask them why they did not locate trees on that property, because it's cleared for walking and there's trees everywhere. So the defining feature on the land would be the trees.
The area that is the walking area actually is part of the roadway.
Okay,
That's
that's
why they were
important. We need to
marked.
know the difference between those two.
And because originally there was basically a Y there so when you would go onto 12, you could turn left or you could turn right off the Y. And when Winters Mill Parkway was done, then the city matched up the Woodcreek Drive to one street. And so the actual walkway is in city right of way. So then the pin is actually, 40 foot off of the, 20 foot off of the side of the roadway for that area that would be known as a park, unless you extended it into the right of way.
I still think it should be a park. You just have to deal with the boundaries on it, such.
I agree. I mean, it's nice to have the green space there. It's not a park, it's an empty lot that has a number.
Well, and it's not
series
like
of
you have
letters
to
and numbers.
cover every square foot of it with stuff. I remember, I think Jane was talking about if we did the exercise equipment, it could be over closer to the right of way. And so you could leave that area more natural in there where it floods more. Jane, what are your thoughts on it?
Well, I guess being as we all are, probably environmentalist, conservationist, I have some concerns about putting equipment there because of the requirements for ADA access and the fact that lot, I mean, we've all been there when you have 2 or 3 inches of rain, the water just pours through there. And I'm not sure that that's a good site for equipment. And
Is the whole lot that way?
a lot of it.
Yeah, it was pretty full the other day after the rain we had.
When I came in, what was it, a week ago Saturday, when we had the heavy rains,
It was,
it was still probably 3 inches running across Champion Circle into that lot, and it was flooded.
It was full.
I mean, the city, we do have kind of a retention pond there, which has been helpful.
Yes.
But trying to keep a access to equipment because it is required for ADA compliance, to me would be a real difficult issue. And I don't know, I think about the whole idea of equipment there, and I guess I'm more likely to tend towards leaving it natural and trying to maybe beautify that area a little bit more. Maybe some more native plantings, just kind of look at it. And
What about some benches though? Maybe just some benches? I mean, obviously, you'd have to figure out if you can even have room to put any equipment once you get a survey.
A
It won't
lot
be in
of
the water.
the exercise type equipment that we're talking about has a very small footprint and is a sort of thing that you can normally put right along a walkway. So if you avoided the major flooded areas and put it up closer to where the end of the trail was, that comes off of Winter's Mill, and maybe we have too much equipment listed for that. But I think it wouldn't hurt to have some of those items in there.
I agree that it'd be nice to have some equipment. I even thought about maybe working with the county and seeing if they were interested in putting a few items on the other side of 12, near the path.
That's an excellent idea.
And
You mean
because I
by
think,
the church, on the church side?
yeah, I mean, that's,
So whose property is that?
well, it's the hike and bike trail is maintained by the county.
It's on county right away.
Yeah, and since the county's interested in enhancing recreation for Woodcreek and Wimberley citizens, maybe they would be more open to us suggesting that we put some equipment. I mean, we've all been on trails where you can stop and do a pull-up or a push-up, and
That's an excellent idea.
it seems like it might be more appropriate to put actually along the trail where.
I think that's a great idea. The only thing that kind of confuses me a little bit is how that plays out procedurally and process and such.
I'll comment on that a little bit, because these people have been the most responsive. These game time people, I'm not an advocate for them. They're the ones that have been the most responsive. Their grant program that we talked about, they specifically want us to engage the county if we are able. And they said if we do engage with the county and do a purchase of some type of equipment, they will match anything that Woodcreek and the county brings to the table. So if we went into this as an improvement along that trail, and we were part of that inside of our city limits.
And it is in our ETJ.
That is all part of the funds that can be matched with equipment, possibly to the tune of a playscape that if it isn't free, it's steeply discounted.
Can we spend city money outside of the city?
We don't have, I wasn't suggesting that.
No, I'm just
But
asking. That's
a
kind of a
package
dumb
buy?
question, but it's.
No, we cannot.
Okay.
So a package buy of exercise equipment that meant, let's say it went from the intersection of 12 and Winters Mill Parkway all the way around to Blue Hole. If there were exercise stations on that whole hike and bike trail, that would be a package buy. And the county can pay for part of it, and we can pay for the part that's on our side of the street. But
That sounds like the sort of thing you're really good at.
actually, I do kind of do this on a large scale sometimes, but I mean,
To me, that's really the appropriate location for it.
Oh, no, it definitely is. I
mean,
just
I'm
felt
more
like we
likely to
didn't
do
have
a
any
push-up
way
on
to
the
deal
trail
with it.
than I am over there in the woods.
I can see it getting used pretty heavily on that trail. That could be that would be a big selling point.
Mhm,
And then, if we spend $100,000, we get $100,000 worth of equipment.
mhm.
And $100,000.
But we're not spending it on that equipment
Well,
because.
we wouldn't be spending the entire 100,000 if the county was brought into it.
Yeah.
The county would actually be spending the bulk of that.
Okay.
And it wouldn't be a 25% match for us because it's outside of our city limits.
Right.
It's not our equipment. Somebody else is buying it, but if we buy it together and we're approved for the grant program, we get $100,000 worth of equipment for free. Whatever we spend, we're going to get matched as long as we spend 100,000. It's something worth looking at.
So can this take the form of a motion? One thing I wanted to go back to was it Ruth Ann or which one of y'all said the native plants and enhancing the area?
Me.
You did. I think that wouldn't hurt. We could do more and make it more attractive. And that is something that you're much more conversant with than I am. So,
I kind of took on the other side of 12
Mhm.
as my little project, but I would be happy to look at that and see what we could do and maybe get a helper like Ruth Ann.
That would
happy
be
to help
good.
you.
Yeah, because you're not on the subcommittee.
We need a motion for a two-person subcommittee to explore, enhancing. I'll let somebody else make that motion.
Is that for the entire park system that we're now installing or just that one?
Well, why don't we make a motion for you two to do a subcommittee that looks at the using how would you say it?
Native.
I'd like to move that
Yeah.
we form a subcommittee to look at improvements to the south side of the entry at 12 in terms of landscaping and enhancement, the enhancement of landscaping there.
Okay, did you get that, Maureen?
I'll
Okay.
second it.
Karen.
Karen? Any further discussion? Could we have a roll call, please?
Jane Little,
Aye.
Ruth Ann Gilbert,
Yes.
Cody Abney,
Yes.
Karen Poe,
Yes.
Yes. Now, should we have a separate motion on approaching the county about, or is that something? Brenton, what should we do on that?
We have
Well,
enough
I'm
to
just
do.
looking at this property on Google Earth. I can't see where you'd put anything on that side
Which
Along the
property?
trail
along the trail. But just the way it's designed, because
In Woodcreek, you're talking about.
and on Woodcreek, yeah. So basically, I think you might make a recommendation to the county, but as a board, but I can't see putting anything
Right there.
right there by the trail
In the city of
in the
Woodcreek.
city. Yes.
Well, yeah, and that's why I was saying that if we want to discuss with the county about doing exercise equipment along the Winters Mill Trail, do we need to have a motion to that effect?
Your motion would be to recommend to the city council that.
Okay.
Is that trail, is that part of the Wimberley Parks and Recreation Department? Or is it strictly
Blue
county?
No, that's county. It's all county
County?
Blue Hole, yeah.
until it gets
So
into the city.
who do we need to
Wimberley.
talk to with the county? Who do we as a board need to address with the county?
Probably lunch.
No, I would just bring it up with Lon.
Okay, I think we ought to do that. I think I don't know that do we need a motion to do that, or do we just reach out to Lon Shell and say, hey, this is an idea we
you
have?
get into the problem as this board is not authorized to negotiate or do any recommendations to other officials. You would have to recommend to the city council that they approach or have a designated representative approach the county about it.
I say we put a better plan together and make recommendations at our next meeting
Okay.
on that subject, but I think it's something we should pursue.
Mm-hmm.
And
Which,
there's a lot of these guys right here that would love to sell the county some equipment.
Yeah, no, I think it's a great idea. And I wasn't all that gung ho about us necessarily paying for the equipment, but I thought it would be a nice thing that would balance the park's proposal against it just being biased to the kids. Because you have a lot of people that are not as focused on the children.
Exactly.
Mhm.
And if Brenton is saying that it's going to be very difficult to get some equipment put in at that piece of property,
Mhm.
I move that this board recommend to city council that a survey be performed. Nobody's made that motion yet, correct?
No.
We need to get a survey of that property.
The
If
motion's
we've got
been
city
made.
right of way on the north side of it,
I
you
think we
can
did.
bet that the east side is eaten up with easements and county right of way, I'm sure, if not TxDOT.
Well, on our property, we have a 15-foot golf course easement, then TxDOT easement on 12.
So there needs to be a survey done with the easement shown, and we need to know how much land, if any, we're working with there that's usable. Maybe
Yeah,
totally
I'm
different than what we're
not
imagining.
totally ready to give up on not putting any
Anything?
equipment
No.
in there.
I want to have some more discussion on that.
But I'm leaning very heavily toward what you guys are talking about.
Could we make a motion to request that city staff reach out to county representatives regarding including some adult exercise equipment to be recommended for the trail, the hike
Yes.
and bike. Could we? do
Sure,
something
you can
like
recommend that.
I've got a motion outstanding right now that's looking for a second, and that's to get a survey of the property.
I thought we approved that.
I second it.
Oh.
Further discussion? Could we do a roll call, please?
Cody Abney,
Yes.
Pat Rollins,
Yes.
Jane Little,
Yes.
Ruth Ann Gilbert,
Yes.
Karen Poe.
Yes.
Okay. And passes unanimously. Okay, so were you about to do another motion or who, were you going to do that? Yeah, you were going to do the motion to have the city staff reach it. So,
I move that we recommend that city personnel, city staff reach out to Hayes County and have them consider placing exercise stations for adults or for people.
yeah, just exercise station.
Exercise stations along the Winters Mill hike and bike trail.
I second that.
Mhm.
Any further discussion? Let her finish writing.
Jane Little,
Yes.
Pat Rollins,
Yes.
Karen Poe,
Yes.
Ruth Ann Gilbert,
Yes.
Cody Abney.
Yes. One of the, oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Pat.
What do you have? What's going on?
So passed unanimously, and I was going to say that
unanimously, sorry.
if we can't get exercise equipment right there at that park, one of the planning goals is to extend the trail system from Blue Hole all the way to Jacob's Well.
Mhm.
If we could get the county to buy some equipment coming to us from Blue Hole, and when we enter the city, we extend that theme on the trail system in our city through to the other side to Jacob's Well. That's how we could have some shared benefit, and I mean, it's gonna be shared cost. We'd also have shared savings if we get equipment matched. If you can see,
If
I'm
we
trying to
could
figure out a way to
time
get a
that
playscape.
to match up to the windows for the park bond money as well, I'm not sure with everything else we're doing, if we tried to do that without support from the county.
Yeah, I don't know how it would work either, but
I'm
it's
not
an
sure
idea.
when the trail going through Woodcreek is like one of the last trails they're talking about doing from what I saw in the presentation. Isn't that correct?
Yes.
It's like
And-
G.
And that has not actually been designated anywhere within the city.
And there's a whole lot of controversy about where it goes.
I believe the trail, working on the trail system is our second mandate after utilization of the existing property, correct?
Right, it is.
Okay,
Yeah,
so let's get to that when we get to that.
Yeah,
yeah.
we've
yeah.
got plenty
So-
to do.
Yeah,
It sounds like we've been moving a lot. So we've moved forward quite a bit in this one meeting, I think.
I think so.
Do we have an motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I
Adjourned.
second it.
Yeah, adjourned. At, what is it? I can't see my
Yeah.
watch.
11:34.
11:30.
11:34, okay.
I'm just trying to figure out how I can get a free playscape.
Okay.
That was good.
Huh?
So I can spend